This is the crown my co-star wore in Promenade. This is a plaque I got for the film, and these are all its laurels. And this is Jess Paul. So last week was our first live show, and it was fun. But we finally spun our wheel to hit acting and filmmaking, which was a category that I was so excited about for so long because this is basically the focus of my life. So there's so much advice and experience and stories. If you didn't know, I actually write filmmaker and actor advice articles on my own website, so if you want to skip ahead, they are there. And I was trying to choose what would be one of the most significant videos to start off with, and I chose one of my articles, 6 reasons that you should be making a microshort. From writing these for the past few years, this seems to be the most impactful, the one that is repeated back to me the most, to have helped some people who have actually read it. Which I don't really think enough people have read them, so that's why I'm making them into videos. While I was learning and experimenting in film, one of the biggest problems that I would see other filmmakers run into is basically just finishing something. When indie filmmakers start off, they tend to go for really big, elaborate, expensive films that they want to create, and they think that it might be easier than it actually is, and they end up kind of doing all of this work and then never seeing it to fruition. And so eventually one day in my filmmaker journey, I came up with the resolution, and the story starts at Sundance. So in 2014, I went to Sundance for my film that I was starring in but didn't direct or produce, called Immaculate Reception. Oh my god, how many times am I going to bring up this movie on my show? It's important to me. That's why it gets brought up a lot. And really, you should watch it. It's linked below. But I got to go to Park City, Utah. I got to enjoy the high altitude and freezing conditions of January at Sundance. I got to go down the main street. I got to watch some films, meet lots of really cool people, and I got to watch my film on the big screen, which was incredible. And since it was a short, it was playing in a time slot with a lot of other shorts that were accepted into Sundance. And once I had left, I kind of reevaluated the films that I had seen in my showcase, and really only one stood out. And probably the most notable aspect of this film was that it was only 3 minutes long. The film I'm referring to is a UK short called Best, but besides just it being so notable for being so short, it also was incredibly impactful and clever in that short amount of time, and that's why it stood out to me so much and caused me to remember it and recall it and think about it literally years following. 2 years later in 2016, I had continued to act, gained some accomplishments, gained some clout in my smaller market, and really started to think about where the next step was for my filmmaking career. And one thing that I had not yet accomplished was actually producing a movie I had written. Even though I had literally been writing as long, if not longer, than I'd been acting. Promenade is a 4-minute dramedy about a goth-looking prom queen who wonders why she got the crown. It was filmed over the course of one night with an almost $0 budget and gained me 18 inclusions in festivals, international showings in UK, Egypt, China, and all across the US, and also distribution deal with Reverie TV, the #1 LGBT streaming service online. So if you've ever struggled to complete a film that you're truly proud of, or you just want to step up and accelerate your filmmaking career, keep listening. As if you were going anywhere. Why do people say that? You're already here. And as for the purposes of this discussion, a microshort is defined as a less than 5-minute short. And the #1 reason why you should be making a microshort is longer does not always equal better. With attention spans waning because of the YouTube generation, not a complaint, just a fact. Digital content purveyors now have the choice to skip your film if they see a much too long timestamp in the corner of your thumbnail and don't want to sit there and watch it. But this isn't exactly a bad thing for narrative artists. And while feature film length has always for decades now hovered around the 90-minute mark, give or take, short content has evolved to focus on much more important small moments than long drawn-out content. And here are some tips for shortening your story. 1. Start with some assumptions about your main character. It's a 5-minute movie. You don't even get to tell us the life story of your protagonist, let alone any of the other characters in the movie. So start off by creating a basic human being of a character with only a couple distinct character traits, and start the actual story at a more climactic point in their life. One example I gave in my article is that instead of taking a female protagonist and showing where she works, who she is, her whole childhood history, start with a pivotal point like she is getting a phone call that her dad has just died, and that's where our story starts. When you have such a limited amount of time, you have to kick off the plot faster than you do in a feature film. Tip number 2, limit your film to a scene or 2. In a feature film, an average conversation length, if you could average such a thing, might be 3 to 5 pages of meaty dialogue. But that is your entire micro-short. In this short film, you're going to have to focus on how to start and finish a film in only a scene or 2. And the third tip is to capture a moment instead of a plot. When you think of your favorite popcorn movies, you often envision a gigantic journey or a lot of obstacles and a lot of different characters that your protagonist will encounter over the course of the film. But a micro-short must focus on a more subtle change or a shorter character arc. They can't really go on an epic adventure unless you really chop that film up. Chop that film up! For Promenade, I used 3 actors, 1 location, basically 1 scene of dialogue, and 4 pages of screenplay. I was basically taking what would be 1 scene of a much larger script and just closing it up into 1 short film. The number 2 reason to make a micro-short is that you've got some prime real estate. As more and more filmmakers crop up because of the affordability of film equipment and the accessibility of filmmaking education, you have a lot of competition and little time to impress those people that you want to work with. And when you need to send a complete film to showcase your work, a 4-minute film will be a delight and a relief to all the busy actors, producers, or otherwise superiors that are going to be sitting there and watching your film. One tip about this is that if you have to email your film as kind of a reel to anybody that you want to work with, anybody that's above you, maybe people that don't even know you and don't know if you are worth their time, actually announce in the body of the email that this film that you just sent is less than 5 minutes long. This may prompt busy professionals to actually click and watch your film right away because it's very easy to knock out a 5-minute film. Kind of related to that topic, when I did produce Promenade, I also included a character with a costume and a personality and a nice monologue that I could take and use in my own acting reel as opposed to a directing or producer reel. I was filling this production with content that I could use for myself. Maximized utility. The number 3 reason to make Microshort is because of the festival trick. Festivals, big and small, will have a certain amount of time to fill in the evening of the film festival. If you have submitted to a festival and you're on the edge of getting accepted, you have an advantage of wiggling into a spot that has just a little bit of time left on its time slot than maybe a 20-minute film might. The number 4 reason is that a shorter shoot equals a smaller budget, which is one reason I'm sure a lot of filmmakers have struggled with this process so far. When you have a story that only includes a couple actors, 1 location, you often are asking for only a 12-hour date from your talented cast and crew. When I was writing Promenade, I was specifically writing a movie with resources in mind that I already had. The swimming pool that's the main environment of the movie is actually in my backyard. I kind of dressed up the set to make it look like a hotel or some kind of venue that this prom would be held at, but I knew that I had this free resource that I could freely use instead of going out and possibly paying for a set that I wrote into a film that I didn't know how to make. The number 5 reason is that you can focus on creating your best. When longer scripts are given their budget and the green light, the bottom line is to make your day. The dialogue wasn't quite right? Too bad. That angle wasn't as good as it could have been? Fuck it. When producing a micro-short, you now have the patience and the priority to focus on details that you otherwise wouldn't have, like that complicated shot, or that perfect cinematic lighting, or getting the delivery out of your actor that you needed from the beginning. This was the first time I'd ever directed something I was writing and starring in. This was a huge experiment in a learning process for me, and I knew that before I started. I made a film that had aspects in it that I could kind of easily control so that I could focus on the things that I knew I wasn't so experienced at, so that the next time that I create something a little bit bigger, I'll have a lot more experience and success behind me on a smaller scale film. And the number 6 and final reason to create your micro-short is that you get to start small to end big. This micro-short could be used as a calling card to get you to your next big step. If you don't exactly know how to express your vision for a full-length feature film, make a 5-minute sample of what it could be. Have a script that requires months of production, an all-star cast, a professional crew, and big budget expenses. Cut a slice from your feature screenplay, alter it so that it has a complete arc, and produce something that you can now shop around for interest of your future bigger project. Some may or may not know that Promenade is in fact a truncated, very truncated version of my first feature film that I ever wrote at 19 years old called Jesse's Girl. Yes, like the 80s song. And when I was traveling to New York, I had actually created a pitch deck for anybody who was coming up to me and saying, wow, this is really great. How can I be involved with your next bigger project? No one has yet to give me money for my feature film because I'm really bad at asking for it. But while I was having all the success with the short, I was ready for the next big step if anybody was interested in joining me and giving me money. You can watch the full-length 4-minute film of Promenade in my links below, as well as all the other films that I mentioned in today's episode. And now it's time to spin the wheel! Thank you guys for watching this week, and if you're interested in coming back to see more, only if you're interested in coming back to see more, that's what the red sub button is for. I won't force you. Look at me turning in the middle. Oh, I'm upside down. Ah! What should I count? Our Netsie or the... Oh no. Well, we'll do... I guess we'll do the question mark one. Stop moving. We're going to land on the purple question mark one. So, this category, was basically things that aren't included in the wheel. So, this will be a real mystery to everybody. If you like this video, show me by thumbsing up or commenting that you liked it. Either one, I don't care. I don't even like asking for likes. But otherwise, I'll see you next week with a mysterious video. I literally have to figure out what I'm doing. Have a great day, pups and kits, and I'll see you next time.